Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. As you probably know, Zelensky, the president-elect of Ukraine, visits United Nations, New York City, and he spoke in front of the General Assembly, and he had some meeting in the Security Council. He was invited over there. So during these two events, he said he at least outlined or named two prerequisites for ending the war. So he said if Russia does A and B, or 1 and 2, then the war will end. Or at least we're gonna stop fighting and we can move on. Now, I don't know about you, but when or after a person doesn't keep his promise, maybe one time or two times, you know, the credibility of that individual decreases, I would say. So in this case, Zelensky still has to implement Minsk agreements 1 and 2, which he didn't, so has no credibility. Besides the fact that the reasons or the prerequisites that he's going to mention are idiotic for many reasons. Let me show you. I have 3 articles saying the same thing, but I just want to show you different nuances. So, Ukrainska Pravda, today, the September 20th, 2023. Zelensky at United Nations Security Council names 2 prerequisites for ending the war. That's one. The other one comes from, again, the same Ukrainska Pravda. Zelensky outlined conditions for the cessation of hostilities by year's end. That is, 3 months or so. And then we got this one, Ukrinform. Zelensky at United Nations names 2 steps for complete cessation of hostilities. Now, let me read you those, how do you call it? Those offers, those 2 steps. And I will pick, let's say, which one. Let's stay with this one. So it's down here. He said right like this. He stressed that the first point, that I'm reading right here, was the full withdrawal of all Russian troops and military formations, including the Russian Black Sea Fleet or its leaky remnants, as well as the withdrawal of all mercenaries and paramilitary formations of Russia from the entire sovereign territory of Ukraine within our internationally recognized borders as of 1991. How about 1917? Oh, there was no Ukraine then. Okay, my bad. Next, Zelensky said the second point was the full restoration of Ukraine's effective control over the entire state border and exclusive economic zone, including the Black and Azov Seas, as well as in the Kerch Strait. In fact, only the implementations of these 2 points will result in an honest, reliable, and complete cessation of hostilities. All right, let's analyze them. So first, Zelensky wants Russia to take all its troops from Ukraine as it was in 1991. Okay, that is, leave back the Russian-speaking population that will be treated beautifully, I'm guessing. They already said, it was a woman who said, I don't know what kind of office official she was. She said that there are about 10,000 Crimean residents that they will be arrested and prosecuted for collaborating with the Russians. So you can imagine what's going to come after that. So that would be a little ethnic cleansing, just to say a little. So that's the first one. Now, if the Russians do that, what are the consequences? What's next? Before, let's say the Russians say, yeah, we're going to do this. What's next? Do you think the Ukrainians will say, okay, now we do this, and what? The whole point of this was, you don't kill those guys over there, the Russians' point. Don't kill those Russian-speaking population in East Ukraine. Don't get NATO on your territory so they can attack us or be closer to us. You are not a NATO member state. We cannot allow that for our security. It's like you allow people go around your property, not on your property, around your property with cannons ready. And you say, well, I'm just okay, man. No, I don't feel threatened whatsoever. But if you do the same thing to those guys, they will immediately be very upset. Like in 1962? What? Right? Was that 1962? The Cuban Missile Crisis? I think so, right? So anyway, that is impossible. The other one is, I often tell this story about he was an English friend, he is still a friend of mine, an English friend who used to tell me this story. He was very direct, and that's why I liked him. And my Irish friends, please do not feel insulted because I'm just the messenger. This is the joke this guy used to tell me about the Irish people who was always making fun of. That's him. Don't. Okay. So he said that it was once upon a time, it was an Irish guy who wanted to swim across the French channel. The English channel. I know my British friends like that. Not. So he said, I'm going to swim across the English channel. And he started swimming, and when he got halfway, the Irish guy got tired and he turned around and went back to Great Britain, to the island, instead of continuing, the other half. So this is Russia right now. So they're in it, going back. That means they had how many people killed? Sanctions. And what's next? What's next? Russia is not over there to negotiate. Russia is over there to take. Now, at this point, Russia is not negotiating like it was prior to February 24th, 2022. Before that, he offered many offers, meetings. He said, let's talk about it. Give us a law-abiding document over there where you said you're not going to do this, you're not going to do this, blah, blah. And the other guys said, off. Do what you need to do. We're waiting. And that's where you are, unprovoked attack, okay? And the Russians came clearly with 4 demands. Until they will fulfill those, or they will have their countries destroyed, there's no in between. Do you think the Russians will go halfway? How? They got over there to defend first, according to them, right? Those Russian-speaking who were killed, population killed over there. Second, we're going to make sure that Ukrainians will not have NATO troops on it. It's going to be a buffer zone. But that's not going to happen. And now, what do you think the Ukrainians will want? Reparations. By the way, they talked about $700 billion reparations from the Russians. So you Russians go to work double because you have to pay back. Why? Because somehow right here you have to do this. So who in the right mind would do this? You're in it. The Russians did not want to go in. Oh yeah, they want to conquer Europe. Okay, keep that for kids. All right, so they got in. Once they got in, do you think they're going to stop? Unless you destroy them, they will not stop. Or they will fulfill their 4 points. And it's going to go like this until, I don't know, the Russians will not retreat. So this is idiotic. And besides, Zelensky, you first show us a little bit of credibility, which you have not. You have zero. Implementing the Minsk I and Minsk II agreements, which were much better than what's going on right now and what's going to happen after this. Those were, if you look at them right now, they were like golden comparing with what's going on right now. Keyword, hey, those guys who have a problem with that. I didn't say they were ideal. I said they were better offers as they were, and Ukraine agreed to those. And they had 2, how do you call those? Guarantors. The French and the Germans. Yeah and we. They had these guys. And what happened? They didn't have the yes. So not having the yes pushed the we and the yeah to garbage. It says, what are you talking about? Thank you very much for holding the Russians back for about 8 years. Ha! We trained these guys. We're ready, Russia. Bring it on. Okay, man. Let's do NATO versus Russia. Place your bets. So, all right, unprovoked war in Ukraine. So this guy is talking garbage because he knows the Russians will not do anything like he demands or he thinks he's going to solve the problem. How about the other way around? How about the Russians propose the Americans tell Zelensky to stop fighting and do what the Russians said? Stop fighting, get NATO out, have a I don't want to say cohabitation, co-governing, and it's going to be the way it is. We look into it, you look into it, we provide guarantees, we provide, you provide, and you can't get in NATO, and we can't get in Russia. And those guys over there, as I said in the Minsk agreements, let's have an autonomous, which I think we are beyond that. I don't think Donbass and Crimea will ever become as they proposed in the Minsk agreements, and Crimea was already gone then. So I don't think the Donbass will become autonomous. I think that's it. The line was drawn. They didn't have thousands, tens of thousands of Russians killed and destroyed and so on because what? They roll back? No. I'm 99% certain that the Russians will either get their 4 points fulfilled and more, or will just the other guys will succeed in, I don't know, taking over Russia through something. But that's going to be even worse, I think, because I think Russia will break, and once it breaks, you're going to have more than one country with nuclear weapons. You're going to have 4, 5, 6, 7, it depends. And I think Putin has this ready already. You remember those guys who leave their will after they die? We read it and say, what the hell, man? You put us all together here against one another. The same here. I think if Putin disappears with about, I don't know how many other people need to disappear over there according to this NATO peace-loving countries, I think Putin already got people who will act in a certain way that there's going to be no way. If I remember, I remember when in a military council in Japan before the Second World War, before the Japanese had a military council, I think it was Imperial Council, I think it was called, and someone proposed that we should invade, Japan should invade United States of America, and I think it was either Marshal Yamamoto or it was Togo, the chief of staff, the defense minister, Tojo, or Yamamoto. Yamamoto was the air commander who was shot down by the Americans while flying, unfortunately. So anyway, one of these guys said we can't invade because the Americans are armed. If you try to invade at every household where you're going to go in that country, you're going to have an end of the barrel pointed at you. It's going to be almost impossible. It's going to be from house to house to house. So the same here. I think if Putin goes away and others goes away, I think the military in Russia will fight a guerrilla war, and they have nuclear weapons, by the way. So you can't touch them because they're going to fight for really, really survival at that point. So anyway, this guy just talks for weak people and feeble-minded to get, that's the problem. If the Russians only would accept those conditions of brave, intelligent Zelensky, then yes, everybody will be peaceful and we're going to make children and have fun. Idiots. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.